Welcome to tonight's live stream Central Arizona Water Conservation District Candidate Forum. I'm Avery Zola, the Voter Education Manager for the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission. Tonight, we are proud to sponsor the event in partnership with Arizona Center for Civic Leadership. The Vice President of the Central Arizona Water Conservation District, Alexandra Arboleda, will give an introduction, and Gary Grado, the Executive Editor of the Arizona Capital Times, will be moderating the discussion this evening. We're excited to bring you this important conversation on Arizona's water management and the critical decisions shaping our future. Tonight, the candidates will discuss key issues like water conservation, sustainability, and resource management. Thank you for joining us and engaging in this important discussion. I'd like to send thanks to the Arizona Center for Civic Leadership for hosting this important candidate forum. Your dedication to enhancing civic life in Arizona through education, engagement, and leadership development is invaluable to our community. And on a personal note, I'm proud to share that I'm also a Flynn Brown Fellow. So there's that. And let's talk about Alexandra Arboleda. She was elected to the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board in 2016 and re-elected in 2022, representing Maricopa County. With extensive experience in water and natural resources law, she has worked on major water issues like stream adjudications, Colorado river rights. She has represented cities, farms, and government agencies in Arizona, giving her a deep understanding of water management. Alexandra holds a BA from Stanford and a JD from the University of Arizona. She enjoys outdoor activities and spending time with her family. So Alexandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Avery, and welcome everyone. I'm Alexandra Arboleda. As Avery said, I'm Vice President of the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board of Directors, and I'm also a Flynn Brown Fellow from the 2018 cohort. I'm here tonight to tell you a little bit more about the CAWCD board. I was in these candidate shoes in 2016 and 2018, so I'm introducing the panel. The Central Arizona Water Conservation District, or CAWCD, is the governing entity for Central Arizona Project, or CAP. CAP. CAP delivers water to Maricopa, Pima, and Pinal counties. And that includes more than 6 million people, which is about 80% of Arizona's population. And CAP carries water from Lake Havasu all the way down to the southern boundary of the San Javier Indian Reservation, southeast of Tucson. So that's about 336 miles. And it pumps water uphill about nearly 3,000 feet. So it's one of the largest users of electricity in the state as well. The CAWCD Board of Directors is elected by popular vote, and it includes our 3 county service area. So we have 15 board members serving unpaid staggered 6-year terms. So every 2 years, 5 of those seats are up for election. We have 10 board members from Maricopa County, 4 from Pima County, and 1 from Pinal County, and that's based on the population of those counties. So it's weighted voting that can change depending on the population. This year, we have 5 Maricopa County seats up, and there are 6 people running for those seats. So one important job of the board is to set policy and strategic direction for CAP. Ensuring reliable and resilient water supplies in the face of reduced flows in the Colorado River and aging infrastructure are some of the challenges that the board oversees. The board also levies 2 property taxes that are used to fulfill its mission and purpose. In addition, the board approves the budget for the organization, as well as large individual expenditures. The board meets on the first Thursday of each month, and there are 3 standing committees. There's the Finance, Audit, and Power Committee, and I'm chair of that committee. There's the Public Policy Committee, and there's the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District and Underground Storage Committee. The Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District, or CAGRD, is also overseen by the board, and It's an entity that replenishes aquifers when groundwater is relied upon for the construction of new subdivisions. So it ensures that these homes have an assured water supply. The Public Policy Committee meets before the board meetings, and the FAP and CAGRD and Underground Storage Committees meet on the third Thursday of each month. Our meetings are open to the public, and we welcome you to come and ask questions and join us. And we're also subject to the Arizona's open meeting law. So with that explanation and background of what the board does, let's begin tonight's forum.
Thank you, Alexandra, for that insightful introduction and for setting the stage for today's critical discussion. Next, to introduce Gary Grado with the Arizona Capital Times. The Arizona Capital Times is published by State Affairs. The Arizona Capital Times is Arizona's leading newspaper focused on policy, politics, providing in-depth news to readers and an interest in government operations. The paper is published weekly and covers a wide range of topics that include the state legislature, the governor's office, state agencies, elections, the judiciary, and more. Mr. Gary Grado has been a journalist since 1994 and joined the Arizona Capital Times in 2010. He previously worked for the East Valley Tribune, where he has won several awards for his investigative reporting and public safety coverage. He also covered municipal government for the Chandler Independent. Gary is a graduate of Arizona State University's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. He's lived in the Valley since 1998 and is an avid runner and Denver Broncos fan. Mr. Gary Grado, please take it away.
Thank you, Avery. That's kind of an outdated profile of me. I'm no longer a Denver Broncos fan until they start winning again. But nevertheless, thank you. And good evening, everybody. I'm Gary Grado, the executive editor of the Arizona Capital Times. And I'll be your moderator tonight as we talk to these candidates about why they're running for a spot on the Central Arizona Water Conservation District. Now, I just want to give the audience and the candidates a little information about how we're going to do this tonight. This is an opportunity for the candidates to introduce themselves to the public and let them know a little bit about themselves and answer a question or two in the time we have. This is not a debate, and there won't be the usual elements of a debate, such as openings and rebuttals and such. Also, I have a list of questions that I'll randomly pick from to ask the candidates. So we're going to take the candidates in alphabetical order, and each candidate will get approximately 5 minutes on screen. And the time goes fast. So let's start with our first candidate, Lisa Atkins.
Good evening.
Good evening, Lisa. How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you.
Great. So can you just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and, the one question and why you want to run? And, the question I have for you is, you've been on the board for quite a long time, so you're quite well versed in water in Arizona. What should Arizona strive for in negotiating the 2026 Colorado River Guidelines?
Thank you very much. My interest in the Colorado River actually goes back to watching the dam up at Glen Canyon being built. My father used to take all of us on a trip from Tucson up to watch the dam being built, and that was the first introduction. The future introduction was as a staff member for Congressman Bob Stump, and every year Arizonans would come back to Washington, D.C. for the annual authorization and appropriation for the Central Arizona project to be able to be built and then to be operable. And when Congressman Stump retired and we all returned to Arizona, there was a vacancy on the board, and I was very humbled that Governor Hull appointed me to fill that vacancy, and I've been on the board since 2003, having been elected a couple of times. Land and water issues are probably the areas, are the areas that I have focused most of my professional career on, both as serving as the state land commissioner and on the CAP board for a few terms. It's what makes this state operable. If you look at the land ownership pattern in the state of Arizona, we have a lot of federally owned land. We have a lot of state trust land, and we have a limited amount of private property in order to provide homes for people throughout the state and businesses. And so the use of our land and the use of the resources to make that land productive are critically important, and water is probably the most important. Gary, I'm sorry, I think you're muted.
I am.
Okay.
I had a train going by. So,
Uh-oh.
what should Arizona strive for in negotiating the 2026 Colorado River guidelines? And what's at stake?
Well, what's at stake is our ability to be able to reach our aspirations and the development of not only an economy, but also the place that many people are attracted to live in Arizona, especially in the 3-county area. So we have I believe, have done a really good job over the years of using our resources to their best ability and proving that we are good stewards of not only land, but of water in the state for our future.
All right. So, you've been on the board since, I think you said 2003.
Yes.
Why are you running again?
It's a passion of mine. While working for Congressman Stubb, my focus was generally on land and water issues. It's something that I've done for a number of years. I think I have the experience to continue representing Maricopa County. It's something that I enjoy, and I look forward to continuing serving the residents of Maricopa County.
So, we've had a lot of headlines over the last few years about, a receding river, a drought, climate change. You've seen them all. What do you tell the voters who are afraid this is going to hit them at the tap?
I think the most important thing is to make sure that they understand, since the very earliest days of Arizona seeking Colorado River water and managing water altogether, we knew that we were the junior water user on the river. We have been, we always will be. When that occurs, you are far more sensitive to how you use the water, how you store the water, we store a lot of water that will be reclaimed at some point when we have an opportunity to use it at a time where there might not be water on the river or growth continues. So it's been a very pragmatic approach for decades, whether it's been the congressional delegation working with the federal administration or the legislature, the board of the CAWCD, the CAP board. Everyone knows that it is a finite resource, and all of our decisions are sensitive to that and look for what's going to happen in the future. It's not a resource that we use today and hope that somebody can figure out what to do tomorrow. It has been very specific about how we step today into tomorrow and be able to continue the type of robust economy that we see in the state of Arizona.
And we got about 15, 20 seconds left for you. How do we adapt to the drought?
I think you've seen an adaptation to the drought at not only how businesses are using water, but how families are using water at their homes. We've seen a lot of homes go from grass to other types of landscape. It is, in fact, a way that we live in the desert. We know that it is a finite resource. We know that we can't waste it. And so we've adapted both our business practices, our family practices, our community practices, how we build, how we grow, to the fact that water is always going to be a very respected asset to how we see Arizona's future.
All right. Any last comments, Lisa?
No, well, yes. I have enjoyed my time on the board, and having served both in a congressional office and as the state land commissioner, I have a keen interest in how we manage the water for the future of the state. We have so much federal land. There's a limited amount of private land to be developed as the state grows, and that water's got to be available to enhance the growth of all that private property around the state, whether you're in Maricopa, Pinal, or Pima County, or in other counties as well. I think that we have a good practice of knowing that it's a finite resource, and we treat it accordingly.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you, Lisa.
Gary.
And good luck on your race.
Thank you.
And next we have Brian Biesemeyer. And good evening, Brian.
Good evening, Gary.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you. Appreciate your time.
So can you just give us a few minutes on, who you are and why you're running?
Sure. Well, I'm a native Arizonan. My family goes back 3 generations in Arizona. I grew up in rural Arizona on a well and septic system. And you know very well when you run out of water with a well, you don't have anything. And it hit me at a young age. I don't think I got it then, but I then went to college on an ROTC scholarship, served in the Army for 8 years, and then got out, went back, got a master's degree in environmental engineering, and have worked the water industry for the last 30 years here in Arizona. Have a passion for water, understand what it means to deliver water, to keep a utility running, and to actually get that water to people, businesses, and entities throughout cities, throughout the state. I want to run because I think right now there's not a single water engineer on the board. A lot of different background, which is fine, but I think it would be helpful to have somebody on the board that understands water from the very basis of it all the way to delivery, and to be able to ask staff those hard questions to make sure we're getting things done in the best and most efficient means possible.
So I was just looking at your campaign website this afternoon, and I want to throw a question at you that
Sure.
After reading that. So you say you want to protect and preserve our access to the Colorado River. How do we do that?
Well, I think it's important. The negotiations are going on now, and the CAP has to understand what those bottom line limits are to what keeps the economy and people in water in Arizona. What's that bottom line threshold coming through the CAP canal? Because there is one, and we want to make sure that going below that's not acceptable, and that's at the negotiation table. And to ensure that utilities have that stability, municipalities have that stability, water providers and tribes all have that stability of knowing that bottom level and trying to keep it stable for as much as possible.
So when Alexandra Arboleda was speaking a little while ago, she mentioned all of the responsibilities of the CAWCD. Which is the most important, do you think?
Oh, that's weighing a number of really important responsibilities. But obviously, the first and foremost is just getting water to Central Arizona. It's the conduit of water through the Colorado River, and getting that efficiently and effectively to municipalities, tribes, communities is the number one responsibility of the CAP. The other parts are just as important. It was mentioned about stored groundwater and CAGRID. And just that stored groundwater is an issue that I think actually needs to be concentrated on more, because we've stored, literally did the calculations, it's trillions of gallons of water we've stored in the desert for a drought scenario. And in truth, I think we're there. At least we need to be prepared to pump that water. And to date, we don't have a single production well in those storage recharge areas to get water back into the Cap Canal and wheel that. And we need to do so. We also are being held up a little bit by the Bureau of Reclamation for our wheeling of water that's not Colorado River water through the canal. And there's some administrative constraints and challenges to do that, and those need to be cleared. That table needs to be cleared so we can get that groundwater into our communities.
And what do you tell the voters to give them confidence in you when they're seeing the headlines of the about the Colorado River, the drought, the climate change.
Well, it is an area, obviously, I think people are concerned with. There are solutions out there. I mentioned the stored water, getting that back. There's other water resources out there that communities need to invest in and develop to ensure that we have a sustainable water future, and as well as conservation. Now, the CAP doesn't, isn't the primary one with conservation. That's the actual utilities that deliver the water have conservation programs. But the CAP be a great conduit to put that word out there and to push people with the word and basically help advertise and promote the need for conservation.
All right. So do you have any last thoughts, Brian?
Well, yeah, I think I can bring a different look to the CAP board, a different knowledge, and hopefully one that can work well with the existing board to promote water for Arizona, and also to express the concerns of water providers out there. And also, I guess I would say that the efficiency and effectiveness of the CAP itself. Everybody is concerned also about prices, and the CAP needs to run a very tight ship in these days of lessened water, because as the water flows through the canal at lower levels, there's a lot of capital costs that go on there, and prices are going to go up. And we need to be staying on top of that to make sure our customers, all of Central Arizona, gets the most bang for the water that's provided.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Good luck on your endeavor. And next up, we have Terry Goddard. Hello, Terry.
Me and Zoom are in a fight. Good afternoon, Gary.
Yeah, we got to quit meeting like this, Terry. Just Terry's been on a couple
Well, I really enjoyed the last time.
Yeah, Terry's been on a couple of morning scoops, one on water in particular, in the last couple of weeks for the Capital Times. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate you being here tonight. And so can you just, this is a down ballot election, and people might not be familiar with the names. They might be familiar with yours, but just let the people know a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Thank you, Gary, and thanks to everybody who's tuned in. It shows that you're interested in Arizona water and the critical role that it plays in our future. I just have a little advice to voters. I very much appreciate your vote in this upcoming election, but I also hope that you'll start at the bottom. And I say that semi-seriously. This is a long ballot, and the CAP board, the CAWCD, which is its full initial, is the very last one. So just start at the bottom. You can always get to the senators and the congressmen later on, but it's very important that you take a look at the folks that are trying to help work Arizona's water future, help to be resources for what Arizona depends on for its future economy. And that's over, as Alexandra Arboleda said at the beginning, that's about a third of the water for driving our economy comes from the Central Arizona Project, from renewable supplies on the Colorado River. As Gary served in different capacities, local and state, and even federal, as an appointed federal person. Throughout that career. In fact, I got elected to the CAP board a long time ago, back in 2000, and had to step down because 2 years later, termination was that water was so integral to every legal issue facing our state that the attorney being on the CAP board. So with great reluctance, I stepped down and being the president of the board.
All right. You keep freezing up, Terry. So there's some delay in my. Want to make sure that your equipment is operating properly there. So
Well, I hope so. Zoom and I are on an adversarial relationship.
and so as I said before, I've just got a small list of questions, so I'm going to be asking the candidates some of the same questions. And so, what should Arizona strive for in negotiating the 2026 Colorado River guidelines?
That's a huge question, and that's the number one thing that's facing us as a state and facing the board of the Central Arizona Project, because our future is literally on the line. The 1/3 of water that Arizona gets through the Central Arizona Project has already been cut by 1/3. We used to deliver 1.5 million acre 1984 until 2022. And that was a wonderful time. And we put a lot of that water for a rainy day or a dry day underground. But right now, the combination of factors have meant we have a smaller river than was anticipated. And we have more demand. Over 40 million people, as again, Vice President Arboleda mentioned, depend upon the Colorado River for all or most of their existence. So it's got to be done very carefully. And Arizona needs to fight for every drop. Right now, it's by no means a foregone conclusion that we will continue even at the 1 million acre feet level, which is what we're delivering today. If we did, I think we'd not great. Pinal County farmers have felt already that they're using any Colorado River water anymore. And that's a tragedy. And we're very, we have to face that every day. But now as a board, we have to find new ways to use our water more efficiently, as some of the speakers have already said, and we have to go out and look for new supplies. And that's something I've been aggressive about in my time as president. We're looking at a whole variety of options in the future. Some of them long range, like desalt. Some of them very short, like Bartlett Dam raising and some of the connections with the Salt River Project. But we need to work on all those areas. It's an all of the above set of options in order to keep Arizona secure in the future.
You mentioned the Pinal County farmers. Do you think they'll ever get their water back?
I actually do, but probably not as what we'd have had before, which was dependable every year. You could dial it up for tomorrow and you would get the delivery. What we're going to be depending on, especially in Pinal County, which has the lowest priority within the CAP service area, is there will have to be times of excess. And in the middle of droughts, you get good years. We had one a year ago where there's very significant runoff into the Colorado River. So I think there's a good possibility that in some of those years, those farmers will be back in business with Colorado River water. In the meantime, and this is hard, they've been using pumped water. That's getting more and more expensive. And it's also undercuts the reason the CAP authority was put in place in the first place, was to stop the groundwater pumping. And I know this board, and I particularly take that very seriously. We're not here to provide, we're here to provide a renewable resource. We need to do it within our means. And we're here to the maximum degree possible to keep farmers from pumping freshest groundwater.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good, because it looks like my video is stopped for some reason. I can't see myself. I don't know if anyone else can see me, but
we can see you, Gary. You're looking great, but your mouth isn't moving.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, Terry, that's all my questions, and just want to wish you luck on your campaign, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody who's tuned in to watch this discussion of our critical water resources. We really need to fight for every drop. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. And next we have Heather Macri.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. So thank you for joining us tonight. And so could you just take a few minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running? You're on the board already, and um, is it for the money or other things?
I mean, if I have to be honest, Gary, it's for the fame.
Okay.
Um, but in all seriousness, my name is Heather Macri. I have served on the Central Arizona Project Board representing Maricopa County for 12 years. I ran for this board because I'm an attorney and I actually wanted to be an environmental attorney, but I got out of law school and moved to Arizona in 2008 and weren't a lot of jobs. So I ended up taking a job as a bankruptcy lawyer and I appeared before the board. And I noticed when I was appearing before the board what I thought was a lack of transparency. People were not really talking about climate change. And at the time, the canals have been put into deferred maintenance. So I decided to run for this office, frankly, thinking that I just wanted to shift the conversation. I wanted to bring some of these important topics that I didn't think were getting a lot of sunshine into the light for people to talk about. I'm proud to say that I was elected and that in my 12 years, I think I've made a lot of positive changes on the board. I've really enjoyed my time. I was able to lead the energy task force to divest from the Navajo generating station. We now have a much more diversified and much greener energy portfolio. I believe you heard Alex Arboleda mention that we are the largest single user of electric power in the state. So that was a Herculean effort, if I will. I've also brought a lot of the public in. I've helped create some great public education programs like the Know Your Water News, the CAP 101. So I've really tried to increase transparency and bring a lot of folks to the table because water is a huge issue and we're all going to need to be there. I've worked hard on things like the DCP and trying to make sure, and excuse me, the drought contingency plan, and trying to make sure that we are learning how to do more with less, that we are looking at growth, but the right growth, and making sure that we use this precious resource to the best of our ability.
Um, you mentioned when you started, you were trying to change the conversation. Were you able to change the conversation?
I was. And I think I'm very grateful to frankly a lot of the people who have been on this call and that people listened. I came in and I was like, "Hey, I think that it would be great if we did these public education programs." And some of it was just because of the rise of Zoom and things like that, but we've been able to do that. When I started, our meetings were not broadcast on the internet. They now are. We have an interactive blue card system, just like the legislature. We're offering these free seminars. We have a weekly newsletter. Another thing is I was tasked to lead the energy task force to divert us from the Navajo generating station. We now no longer use any coal-fired energy. One of the things I was concerned about is that we weren't talking about climate change, and we now have an entire climate adaptation plan. We have folks who come and talk to us every month about climate change and how it's impacting us. So I think I have been an effective leader on this board, and I will tell you, though, I don't do it alone. We have a great staff, and I'm really thankful to my fellow board members for being willing to hear my ideas.
And what are your priorities if you get elected again?
I think the first one, of course, has to be sustainability. We are dealing right now with the once in a lifetime renegotiation of these deadlines about how the 7 states share the river. And we are going to have to learn to do more with less. We're going to have to address climate change head on and continue to do so. Another thing I haven't heard today is that I think we really also need to think about the health of the river's environment. It's not just about what we can take from the Colorado River, but also preserving that environment. We've done a great job of doing that. We've been leaving 500,000 acre-feet of water in Lake Mead to bring more stability to the system, but we have to continue to invest in those programs and invest in the future in innovation. Because part of our future is going to have to be finding out not just how to do more with less, but finding other sources of water, which is going to take a lot of forward thinking, a lot of effluent recycling, and maybe even some things we haven't even heard of at this point.
And you know, I heard you say a couple of things, but um, can you elaborate a little bit more on how to do more with less?
So it's a couple of different things that we're looking at. For one is we are doing a lot of effluent recycling and reuse here in Arizona, but we need to increase that and we need to continue to encourage folks to do that. We also have public education programs, and Central Arizona Project has joined Water Use It Wisely. So we're also educating all of our consumers about things they can do in their homes and businesses to use less water. We brought some technologies over from the Middle East to help some of our agricultural customers be able to produce more crop with every drop. We're also, as part of the drought contingency plan, doing pilot projects looking at desalination, looking at field fallowing, looking at all these different ways to save water. So we're looking at a lot of different things. And again, I think there are also things out there that we haven't looked at that might be a big part of our future.
Okay. Um, got a few minutes left, or a few seconds left. I'm sorry. So you got any last thoughts, that last plug, or
I do. And I just, first of all, I want to say thank you for doing this and thank you for everyone who's tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or after the fact. I really appreciate it when voters educate themselves on this critically important race. Even though we're towards the bottom of your ballot, water is the key to Arizona's future. As Lisa Atkins noted, you can actually see the growth of Arizona and our economy with the expansion of the canal system. We need to make sure that we are doing as much as we can with the water we have, that we continue to fight for every drop that Arizona deserves, and of course, that we absolutely sustain our beautiful Colorado River environment. I say thank you so much and have a great night.
all right? Thank you. Good luck on your run.
Thank you.
And next up, we have April Pinger.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Good evening, April. How are you tonight?
Good, and yourself?
Really good, really good. And thanks for coming on. And can you just give the people out there a little bit about yourself and why you're running again?
Sure. Well, I've served one term, so I've served for 6 years. The beginning of my first term, I started right before the vote for the drought contingency plan. So I was given about a 4-inch thick 3-ring binder of material to review in about a month. That was definitely drinking from the fire hose. The reason that I'm running is I don't have a horse in this race. And this allows me to represent only the taxpayer. I don't have any alliances with any of the municipalities. And my line of work doesn't feed this industry. I am an engineer by trade. My husband and I owned a product development company, and I have worked in flow, so valves, pumps, blowers, that sort of thing. So I understand the technology. I understand the cost of repairs, and I felt like I could provide good oversight in that area and help bring a technical perspective to the rest of the board.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nope, you go ahead.
Okay, so a question I've asked some of the other candidates: how do you instill some confidence in the voters that all these issues that we have with water, the receding river, the climate change, and so forth, that it's not going to affect them at the tap, I should say?
The Arizona has been very, very conservative with its water, and we have been putting away for a rainy day or a non-rainy day water underground, and I believe we have about a decade's worth at this point. It's not quite as bad as the news is relaying. That being said, we are in a drought, and when we are in a drought, we need to be more careful with the water that we have. But it's not about to get turned off at this point.
All right. So Heather mentioned, having to learn to do more with less. I mean, is that something you agree with, and how do we do that?
Yes, and partly we do that with technology. The farms have been experimenting with different water systems. as consumers, we've gone from flood irrigating and sprinkler irrigating our yards and our lawns to drip irrigating xeriscape type plants. While not losing any of the green. By drip irrigation, we can water just the plant and have some nice green plants, and also by selecting the right plants. We don't have to live in nothing but rocks. We can have some greenery around us and use less water.
And if you're reelected, what are your priorities going to be?
My priority is going to be to lower the tax rate for the consumer, for the customer. We're currently at the maximum, a 10-cent and a 4-cent ad valorem tax. I spent my first 6 years trying to get that lowered. We did have an event where a big section of the canal was destroyed, and now we're trying to rebuild from that. But I'm hopeful in this next 6 years that that will be lowered.
All right. Do you want to give yourself a plug and speak directly to the voters and give them your last thoughts here?
Well, I guess the first thing is to understand what the board really has an effect on. The board, we don't negotiate with the federal government. We don't negotiate with the other basin states. The primary purpose of the board is fiscal oversight. That being said, we do have the opportunity to meet with other Colorado River water users. I've met with many of them over the years that I've served, and we get to understand their needs and help them understand our needs, and get to a place where we can work together amicably. And as Heather mentioned, we have the wonderful opportunity to be able to go out and educate the public. I think that even in the 6 years that I've been there has come a long way. And I look forward to doing that as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And that's it for our candidates tonight. And I want to say thank you, April, and thank you to all of the candidates for taking the time tonight to help inform the public about who they are and their candidacies. And I also want to thank the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission and the Arizona Center for Civic Leadership for having me as the host. So I'm just going to say goodnight to everybody and turn it on over to Avery again.
Thank you, Gary. Those were great questions, Gary. These conversations provided a wealth of useful information. I want to say thank you to all of our candidates for participating tonight, and a special thanks to the Honorable Alexandra Arboleda, Gary Grado, and the Arizona Center for Civic Leadership for hosting this important forum. And as a reminder, the voter registration deadline is October 7th, with early voting starting on October 9th. If you want to learn more about these candidates and others, as well as all voting information, please visit azcleanelections.gov and make sure to get informed and finish your ballot. Thank you for joining us, and remember to make your voice heard in the upcoming election.